Today we're going to be solving equations. Do you guys remember what the word equation means from the review? So we talked about equations and expressions. What does an equation have? It has numbers, letters, and the most important part is the equal sign. Okay? That's what defines an equation, is the equal sign. Okay? So an equation has an equal sign. So to solve an equation, so when the question is asking you solve, it's asking you to isolate for the unknown. So it means to leave the unknown by itself on one side and then move everything else to the other side. Okay? So when the question is asking you to solve an equation, it means isolate the variable. So as I said, when you're isolating the variable, you're moving all the numbers to one side and all the variables to the other side. And by sides, I mean the sides of the equality, right? The side of the equal sign. So this would be your equal sign. This is one side of the equal sign, and this is the other side of the equal sign, okay? So we'll have, let's say, the variables on one side. And then we'll have the numbers on the other side. This is basically what we need to do. When you're moving your numbers in terms from one side to the other, right, you're going to have to do what we call the opposite operation. Okay? So what do I mean by opposite operation? So let's say if I have an operation of addition, and I want to move it from one side to the other side of the equality. If it was addition, what does it become when I move it? What's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. Okay? And if the operation was multiplication and I move it, what does it become? Division. Okay? So basically what I'm doing when I'm moving my terms, I am doing what we call the opposite operation. Okay? So to move numbers and terms, the opposite operation Now, before I do all of this, if I have brackets in my equation, I must get rid of the brackets first. Okay? Remember yesterday we talked about distributing, right? So you have to do that before you can move things around. Okay? So remove any brackets by multiplying, by using the distributive property. If I say that, are you guys okay with that? By saying using the distributive property? You understand what distributive property means? Remember? Distributive property when you multiply it by both terms. Okay. And then after you do that, you want to collect any like terms on either side of the equality first, and then you're going to isolate. Okay, so let's look at the first example. So I have solve and check the following equation. So the question is solve and check the following equations. So I have x plus 4 equals to 10. How can I solve for x? So what do I have to do when I say solve? That's right. That's correct. So I want to leave x by itself, and then I want to move whatever numbers with the x to the other side, right? By moving the 4 to the other side, the opposite operation must occur. So what's the opposite of addition? Subtraction. So that's going to be x equals 10 minus 4. Which gives me 6. Is that okay? All right. Now, it's asking us to check the following equations. So to check, you plug in the answer that you just got. You plug it in for x. Okay? So the answer that you just got. So instead of x, you're going to plug in 6. So if I do that, when I'm checking, 6 plus 4, I'm just writing the equation as is. What's 6 plus 4? 10. So 10 equals to 10, right? And this should happen. It should be the left side equals to the right side. Otherwise, my equation is wrong. I've done something wrong. Okay? So right now I'm checking that my answer is actually true. Do you guys understand that part? I see a lot of lost faces. So I say that the left side is equal to the right side. I want to show you what happens if, let's say, my answer here, let's say my answer, don't write this, okay? Let's say my answer here was x equals to -1, okay? Let's say I got this answer, okay? And I want to check if my answer is correct or not. What I have to do is I plug in -1 in for x, okay? So I have -1 plus 4 equals to 10. What's -1 plus 4? 3. Is 3 equal to 10? No. So that means I've done something wrong. That means this answer is not correct. I have to go back and check it. And this is why we do the checking. Okay? So we do the checking. So my answer that I just got, plug back into the equation, make sure that the left side of the equal is equal to the left side of the equal sign. That means my answer is correct. Are we okay? Still not okay. Hmm? How about you guys? What I need to know what is not like what are you not getting? You don't know. Are you getting how we got the answer? Okay. So the checking part is the one that you're not getting? Are you not getting why are we checking, or are you not getting what we're doing? How. Okay. So how is like that. So your answer here is x equals to 6. Are we okay with that answer? Yes. So in your original equation, you go back to your original equation, you replace x with its value. Right? So the value of x is 6. So if I place x with a 6, I do 6 plus 4, right? So it's 6 plus 4, and I'm writing exactly what I see, equal to 10, right? So now, 6 plus 4, what is it equal to? What's 6 plus 4? 10. So I write 10, and then it's equal to 10. Now, because of the left side and the right side are equal to each other, that means my answer is correct. That's what it means. Then if your answer, let's say, as I showed you here, if your answer was not correct, you're going to see that the left side is not equal to the right side. Then you've done something wrong, then you have to go back and redo the question. Okay? So this is just for you to check that your answer is correct. Okay?
In the exam, if we have a little test, we have to check.
Some question it will ask you to check, but if the question doesn't ask you to check, then you don't have to. It's for your own knowledge. But there will be questions that ask you to check your answer. Okay? So for B, I have x minus 4 equals to 10. How can I solve? Mm-hmm.
10 plus 4.
Mm-hmm. Because when I bring this over here, the opposite operation of minus is plus. What?
I'm like, I get it here as soon as I go home. I don't know what to do.
So that means you have to do a little bit more questions in the class. Okay? Now, how do I check?
14 minus 4.
Mm-hmm.
10.
So 14 minus 4 equals to 10. 14 minus 4 is 10. 10 equals to 10, so my left side is equal to the right side. Okay, try the next one. What do you do when you, for this one, for C? 15 plus 5, that's right. So bring the negative 5 over. So if I'm going to check for this, I plug in 20 for x. 20 take away 5 equals 15. 20 take away 5 gives me what? 15 equals 15, so that means my left side is equal to my right side. That means my answer is correct. What do I do for the next one? That's right. So bring the 5 over. It becomes 15 minus 5. Now, this is a negative x equals to 15 minus 5. So negative x equals to 10. Yeah? Am I done here? You told me to bring the 5 over, right?
Just put the negative x all in front of it.
Yeah, negative x is still there, right? So I didn't do anything with a negative x. Brought the 5 over, it becomes 15 minus 5, so that's 10. Now the question is, am I done? No, because it's not x, it's negative x. Okay? Now, I told you guys that if you have a negative x, that's the same thing as saying it's negative 1, right? How can I get rid of that negative 1? What's happening between that negative 1 and the x? Multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Multiplication, right? Negative 1x, that means it's negative 1 times x. Okay, so it's multiplication. What's the opposite of multiplication? So that means I have to divide by negative 1. Okay? So these cancels. So x equals to negative 10, because 10 divided by negative 1 is negative 10. So anytime you have a negative in front of the letter, you're going to have to divide by negative 1, okay, to get rid of it. Because when I do negative over negative, it gives me a positive, okay? Negative and negative gives me a positive, either multiplication or division, doesn't matter. Are you guys okay with this? Are you okay with the answer? Does the answer make sense to you?
It's just negative without the x.
So, oh, yeah. So we talked about that we need to get rid of that negative 1, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we talked about that the opposite would be dividing. Yeah?
Yeah.
So when you divide negative 1 by negative 1, what happens? They cancel. They cancel. It's like when you divide 2 by 2, you're going to get 1. When you divide something by itself, you're going to cancel them, right? So that means you cancel, so you get rid of them and then you just get x. And when you divide 10 by negative 1, that's going to be negative 10. Simplified format, basically, I'm writing it. Okay? So you don't want to leave a negative in front of the x. You don't want anything in front of the x. Now, we're going to check. What do we do to check? What are you doing? Can't do math. If you have any questions, he's right here. So, what am I going to plug in for x? What am I going to plug in for x? 10. Negative 10, right? So I have negative, and then instead of x, I have a negative 10 plus 5. Excuse me. Excuse me. What happens when I have two negatives after each other? Positive. So I can write this as a 10 plus 5. What's 10 plus 5? So my answer is correct. It has to work out. It has to work. If it doesn't work, there's something wrong. Okay. What's different about this one and what we've been doing so far? The next one. Like what, that E right now. What's different between this one and then the one that we've seen before? there's two x's on both sides, right? So there's 5x plus 3, and then there's 4x minus 8. So there's a little bit more work to do, okay? So not only that I have to move, for example, the 3 over, right? But like we did earlier, we also have to deal with that 4x because it's on the wrong side. We have to put it on the right side. We're moving the 4x over, but what is the sign in front of the 4x? Is it a positive 4x or a negative 4x? Positive. So when I move it over, what does it become? Negative. Okay? So because it's a positive 4x, right? When we move it over, it becomes a negative 4x. Like, let's see how that's going to work, okay? So I'm going to move the 4x over, and I'm going to move that 3 over. So we're going to have to do 2 moving here, okay? So 5x, when I move the 4x over, because it's positive, it becomes a negative 4x equals negative 8. What happens to the 3 when I move it over? Negative 3. Mm-hmm. So what's 5x minus 4x? 1x. Mm-hmm. Equals to? Negative 8 take away 3. So because they're both negative, right? So it's going to go to negative 11. Okay? This is as simple as entering in a calculator, negative 8 minus 3. Don't be afraid to use your calculators if you have to. Why? Oh, they will be on the test. I can tell you that. Okay? So what we did here is we moved the x's to one side, and we moved the number to the other side. Is that clear for everyone?
1x minus 4x was what was the answer?
1x, which I don't have to write that one.
Oh.
Yeah? X or 1x, this means exactly the same thing. If you say an apple or apple, same thing, right? Okay, so let's check our work. So to check, I have to plug in that negative 11, whatever x is. So there's 2 places where I have to plug it in. I have to plug it in after the 5, so times negative 11, plus 3 equals 4 times negative 11. I'm going to have to write small here. What's 5 times negative 11? Negative 55. That's right. Plus 3 equals to negative 44 minus 8. Negative 55 plus 3, if you enter it on the calculator, it's going to give you negative 52. And then negative 44 minus 8 is also going to give you negative 52. Okay? I don't need you guys to do this in your head. You can do it on the calculator. I have no issues you using the calculator, okay? And then that indicates that the left side is equal to the right side. That means my answer is correct. Okay, so let's do that last question right there. So you see that in that question, in the last question, there's a lot of terms on each side, right? So before I do anything, I would want to simplify these terms. Okay? So collect like terms. We talked about collecting like terms yesterday. So if you're looking at this right here, the first side, 3x minus 5 plus 2x plus 8, what are your like terms?
Like 3x and 2x.
So 3x and 2x, what does that give me? 3x plus 2x is 5x. Okay? And then what else? That's right. So minus 5 plus 8, that is plus 3. Okay? So what I did right now is I simplified that side. Okay? You want to do the same thing to the other side. What are your like terms here? X and 3x. X plus 3x gives me 4x because I'm adding them. How about 4 minus 12 is minus 8. So now you see that this actually is exactly the same as this. It's not even funny. It ended up being exactly the same equation as E. You see that? 5x plus 3 equals to 4x minus 8. So to solve this, you're going to have to follow the same steps as E. Right? Because I'm not going to write exactly the same thing if it's right there. Okay? You guys can write whatever you want to write. What's wrong? Everything? Okay, let me stop this.